Hello students, welcome to Global Academy of Medical Education GAME, and I'm Dr. Sunabha, your OBS-GYNAE faculty. So let us discuss the 2023 July questions of Fmge exam, the foreign medical graduation exams. The OBG questions I have found from your recalls, and thank you for all the inputs. So first of all, start with the most important question that was asked. It's what is medal swab? What is a 3 swabs test? So when there is a suspicion of a fistula, we do a test called a 3 swab test. So imagine this is the uterus, this is cervix, this is the vagina. At the same time, imagine the bladder here and the urethra passing here, opening into the vestibule, and the ureters coming from the kidney draining into the bladder. So what is a 3 swab test? A 3 swab test is basically 3 swabs. I will paint them in 3 swabs, 1, 2 and 3 are kept in the vagina at 3 different levels. First one in the posterior fornix, second one in the middle, and third one near the vestibule. And methylene blue dye is injected into the bladder. Methylene blue dye is injected into the bladder. So the urine that is inside the bladder is blue now, but it is injected into the bladder, so there is no color in the, there is no urine in the urethra, and the color of the urine is normal yellow. Sometimes phenazopyridine yellow dye is injected into the blood, so the urine becomes more yellow, right? So if there is a fistula, I'll write the fistula tract in the red color. So if there is a fistula between the ureter and the vagina, so if this is a ureterovaginal fistula, this upper swab will get stained first, and also it will be a yellow urine or just colorless urine, depending on whether we have given phenazopyridine dye in the blood. So it will be either yellow urine or color urine on the upper swab, right? And it will be a continuous drainage because the ureter is continuously draining urine into the bladder. So this will be a stain without passing urine, right? So this is ureterovaginal fistula. So this is one. Now imagine the fistula is at the level between the bladder and the vagina. It is in the level of the bladder and the vagina, right? So likely the middle and the upper one will get stained, and it will be blue urine. So middle swab and blue urine, because methylene blue is injected into the bladder, right? So if the middle swab is soaked and there is blue urine, and spontaneously, it is most likely a case of vesicovaginal fistula, which is the correct answer in our case, right? So imagine a third situation. There is a fistula between the urethra and the vagina. So this will not stain. So urethrovaginal fistula. This will not stain in general. But when you ask her to void, then only urine comes through the urethra and takes a detour and goes into vagina. Not stained usually. Last swab only on micturition, and it will be a blue stained urine. Because methylene blue is there, right? So this is the question. So our correct answer is vesicovaginal fistula, the second case, middle swab with blue urine. So coming to the next question, this has been asked repeatedly, and we have made separate videos and we have discussed this again and again. So new MTP Act, only mother's permission is enough. Only the mother's permission, that is mother is in pregnant lady, only the pregnant lady's permission is enough for consent. and if it is 20 weeks, if it is 20 weeks or less, then one doctor who is a gynecologist or who is authorized to do an MTP. If it is beyond 20 weeks, then you need opinion beyond 20 weeks, but till 24 weeks, So then you need two doctors or two gynecologists who are qualified to do MTP, and beyond 24 weeks, you need permission from a district level committee. Right? So this is a simple question and a very important question. So I hope all of you did well. So coming to another question, a bit tricky one. Hyper-estrogenic state are all except. So hyper-estrogenic state, if you remember us discussing again and again, are the prime risk factors of endometrial cancer. So if you think in that line, it will be much easy. So ovarian cancer, certain ovarian cancer like granulosa cell tumor itself secretes estrogen, or ovarian cancer happens when there is a hyperestrogenic stimulation. When ovarian cancer happens, there is a hyperestrogenic stimulation. So ovarian cancer can be either a cause or an effect of hyperestrogenic state, but anyway it is likely to be a hyperestrogenic state when there is a ovarian cancer, right? So tamoxifen causes cystic granular hyperplasia in the endometrium, and it's basically a synthetic estrogen. It is basically a synthetic estrogen or selective estrogen receptor modulator which acts as estrogen, and it is known to cause endometrial cancer. So this is definitely a hyperestrogenic state. Now endometriosis is a state. Endometriosis is a tumor that feeds on estrogen. So endometriosis is another hyperestrogenic state, but not low BMI but high BMI is hyperestrogenic state. So low BMI is not a hyperestrogenic state. So that is your answer. So just after delivery uterus is at, this question is a question that was asked just the last exam 2023 Jan, and this is the slide where we discussed last time. So it will be somewhere between 18 to 24 weeks, so roughly about 20 weeks. So this is the image which depicts the uterine size at different gestational ages, and remember at after 36 weeks the uterus size decreases. The maximum uterine size is at 36 weeks, so it becomes 20 weeks once it's delivered, provided it was a simple singleton pregnancy. Now this is another question that is a direct repeat from Fmge Jan 2023. That is example of outlet forceps. Now we all know DAS is a classical forceps, which is basically a high forceps or long forceps, which is no longer used. Keeland is used for deep transverse arrest. It's a rotational forceps. It is the only rotational forceps, and rotation happens at station 0, so it is applied at station 0, and it's a mid forceps. Now this question is a bit controversial because Wrigley and Piper both are outlet forceps, right? But Wrigley is the standard outlet forceps, so I will choose this as an answer. Piper's forceps is a very special outlet forceps. This is also the longest forceps. This is an outlet forceps for aftercoming head of bridge, with reverse pelvic curve. So this is not your classical outlet forceps, even though technically if you ask me what kind of forceps Piper is definitely an outlet forceps, but here Wrigley is our smallest, and the classical outlet forceps also, this is the most common forceps being used, Wrigley, right? So there was an image based question on obstetric maneuvers. So Ridgen maneuver is used in normal vaginal delivery for cephalic presentation. It's a single operator standard delivery technique for cephalic presentation. Loveset, Pinard and MSV are all for breech presentation, right? So if the image that was given to you, even if you don't know what Ridgen maneuver is, was cephalic, then I think you should be able to make out the answer, because all these are used in breech, right? And the question was, whatever the maneuver was, it was not a breech baby delivery. So I'll just recall, even though I have discussed in that in my Instagram handle with all the list of all the obstetric maneuvers used in breech delivery, after coming head of breech, shoulder dystocia, so all obstetric maneuvers, you can find it at my Instagram page. But I'll just recall, Loveset maneuver is for hands, Pinard is for pair, that is foot, and MSV is used for the aftercoming head. MSV is used for the aftercoming head, right? So these are all obstetric maneuvers for breech delivery. What is not an obstetric maneuver for breech delivery, what is an obstetric maneuver for cephalic presentation delivery, is Ridgen maneuver. So that is the answer. Now this question I could not collect in full, so if you have the real question, you just let me know. 32 weeks Primi with tender uterus, fetal parts not palpable. So that was the scenario. Were there any more hints? I'm not very sure, so do let me know. We'll discuss all the options, rule out all the options. As I always say, it is always better to rule out the options than finding the right answer. So polyhydramnios. Now polyhydramnios, because of the fluid tension, the uterus may not be, the fetal parts may not be clearly palpable, but uterus will not be tender. So this is not tender. So this is ruled out. Now abruptio causes tender uterus, and uterus is tonically contracted. The tone of the uterus is raised. So uterus becomes chronically tight. It doesn't relax in between. So palpation of fetal parts will be extremely difficult, right? So fetal parts not palpable. So this can be our answer, but as I always say, do not hurry. Rule out the other option. So what happens if the rupture of uterus? Uterus will be tender. Uterus will be tender, yes, but once the uterus has ruptured, the fetus will come right under the abdomen and will be very much palpable. So fetal part will be palpable all over the abdomen, right under the skin, right? So this is also ruled out. And lastly, placenta previa. Placenta previa is like, this is the uterus, placenta is here, baby is here. So there is no reason. First of all, placenta previa is not known to cause internal bleeding like placenta abruption. So there will be no tenderness and fetal parts will be just palpable. It will not be palpable per vaginum, and per vaginum is also not recommended. It's contraindicated in case of placenta previa. So placenta previa, none of these satisfies. So our answer is abruptio, right? So induction of labor is not done in, I have here also, I got confusing options, and I have got two options, placenta previa and vasa previa. So placenta previa is basically, suppose this is the uterus and this is the cervix. So placenta previa is when the placenta is attached into the lower uterine segment, either covering the internal os completely or partially. Right, we have read the grades of placenta previa, the older grades and the newer grades, CVS based. So placenta previa is basically a low-lying placenta, whether or not covering the internal os. And vasa previa is, on the other hand, this is the situation like placenta has a velamentous insertion. So placenta may be here, but it has a membrane-like insertion that later on forms the cord and feeds the baby. So fetal vessels are exposed right in front of the os. So vasa previa, if you try to do any manipulation near the internal os or do any kind of attempt to do a vaginal delivery, if these vessels rupture, the fetus will rapidly bleed, the fetus will torrentially bleed, the blood that will be lost will be fetal blood, and fetus will exsanguinate and die. So vasa previa is an absolute no-no for induction of labor, even though placenta previa is a controversial option. See, if it is touching or coming on the os, like previously we used to say the type 3 or type 4 placenta previa, then definitely there is no vaginal delivery. Definitely there is no vaginal delivery possible. So no induction. But if it is placenta type 1 or certain types of 2, then vaginal delivery is possible, and in that case you can actually induce. So if either of these options were there, then either of the options can be true, but if both options were there, then my answer would be vasa previa to this question. I hope all of you did great, and if you have any more questions that I missed here, then do let me know all these questions, and I hope all of you did really great, and see you on your on the other side of FMGE as a registered medical practitioner in India, and soon you will all get a good PG seat. Thank you and all the best. Let's play the game.